All right, folks, so resin is finally ready. It's not quite as foam free as I would like, but it's close enough. You can see, clear liquid down there. And don't be alarmed by the dark color. This will actually probably be a light amber varnish when it's done, similar to what I put on my planes in color. And there's lots of ways to manipulate that as well. So anyway, now it's time to add the oil. So I've been preheating my oil. It's up to about 375. There's nothing critical about that temperature. Anything between, I don't know, 300 and 500 is fine. I've turned down the heat on my resin a little bit, and we're gonna add the oil. It's a little bit of a dance since I'm holding the phone with one hand. Two hands would be nice, but basically this is like gravy. It's like making gravy. Just add a little bit, stir some in, and repeat. So here we go. So just a little bit. Give it a good stir. Lots of smoke, right? Okay, so I'm gonna let this cook for a minute. Well, actually, I'll do one more. So just add a little bit more oil. And just like with gravy, once you get it, once you get past the early stages, and it's mixing well, you can start adding, adding your roux if you're making gravy a little more aggressively, or in this case, adding your oil a little bit faster. So this will take, 5 minutes to do, and we'll check back after that. All right, folks, for this segment, I've got a video assistant. Thanks, honey. I'm gonna demonstrate the string test. But before I do that, just a quick word. The lid is off now. Rebecca, can you zoom in on can you give us a shot of the ingredients in the pot? Yeah, so once the oil goes in, no more lid. You cook it open. You can put a screen over it or something. After you've been cooking it for a while, for this varnish, maybe 15 minutes or so, maybe a little less, maybe a little more, you need to know, how is this stuff done? Or when is this stuff done? So the way to check is something called the string test. I will demonstrate. Your stirring rod, you put a couple drops of varnish onto a bar. You let it cool. It's going to be hot, but it cools fast. And then you stick your finger in it, and you go like that. And if you get strings, it's done. Strings can vary a lot in length, but these are, these aren't huge, but they're nice strings of a few inches. So the string just means that the oil that the oil and resin have combined and partially polymerized, which means that your varnish is done. It'll dry faster. It won't separate later on. So we're good to go. So the next step is going to be adding dryers and solvent to the varnish. So the varnish is done now. Everything's added in. It's been cooling for a while. It's about 165 Fahrenheit right now. So the very last thing that you need to do is filter it. I like just a disposable cone paint filter. The ones you get in the hardware store are like 240 micron size. But you can order ones online that are 100 microns. So I order those. So I kind of hate this part because I'm actually left-handed, and I gotta pour with my right hand here, but let's give it a try. Yeah, I always make a mess like that. Kind of hold it so that the stuff that runs off the bottom goes in the filter. That's a nice thing about the filter, I guess, is that it's nice and big. All right, I'm gonna let that sit for a minute and drain. Couple things that I forgot that I'll mention while this is draining. So I never said anything about temperature for cooking the varnish once the oil is added. So, you know, your resin's at around, I don't know, 600 degrees. You add the oil and the temperature drops. And then turn down the heat, and basically the temperature is really not very critical. I just like to keep it a little below 500. So 450 to 5. If it gets up to like 520 or something like that, no problem at all. You know, it's just really not that critical. What else? Cooking time is correlated to the length of your varnish. So this is what you'd call a short or medium oil varnish. It's basically a 1-to-1 ratio, a little more than a 1-to-1 ratio of oil to resin. So it cooks pretty fast. The varnish I use on my planes is 2-to-1 oil to resin. That's why it's less glossy. That's why it's more of a satin finish and tends not to build in such thick coats. So that stuff takes a lot longer. It'll probably take me 45 minutes to an hour to get to a decent string. So there's definitely a correlation there. Let me pour in a little more of this varnish. One thing that will happen with these filters is that they can get a little bit clogged, so I like to stick in my stirring rod and sort of gently, gently stir. Whoops. Okay, I need 2 hands, so I can't deal with the camera for a second. So I'm gonna gently stir the varnish inside the filter. There we go. That knocked it down a little bit because the filter gets clogged, obviously. So you probably don't want to see this whole process, but I do want to get through the whole thing just so you can see what's in the bottom of the pot. So the thing about varnish to remember is we started with tree resin, and tree resin has a lot of crap in it. So let me see if I can get some more of this in. Still not quite at the bottom, but I think one more pour should do it. It's draining pretty slow here. Okay, what else did I forget? What else can I talk about while this stuff is draining? I think I covered most of it. All right, let me pour the last little bit in here. I think I might overflow here. All right, that's what's left in the pot. There's some undissolved resin in there. Just junk, mostly undissolved resin, not too much, but you know, that's okay. There's also some stuff that's gonna drain into the smaller particles, smaller than 100 microns, that will go into the varnish itself. And the cure for that is basically just let the varnish sit for at least a week before you use it. And anything that's a particle will just filter down. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Thanks very much, folks. Hope you enjoyed learning about making varnish, and I encourage you to give it a try sometime. And if you have any questions, just, leave a comment on the blog or leave a comment on Instagram, and I'll do my best to answer. Thanks for watching, everybody.